everybody. My name is Raheem Algermain. I'm here with this distinguished gentleman. I'm going to introduce him, or let him introduce himself to you all and tell you why we're here. We're at a fantastic event. It's been absolutely amazing. You all missed it. You all missed it this time, so hopefully we'll be able to do it again. But sir, what's your name?
Khalil Osiris.
Khalil Osiris.
And I'm founder of Truth and Reconciliation Conversations, T.R.C. Our initiative focuses on two core areas of social justice. One is racial reconciliation, and that's embodied during our annual observance of what's called Nelson Mandela International Day, held every year, July 18th. It's inspired by the life of Nelson Mandela and the 67 years of struggle and sacrifice that he committed to and emerged from the prisons of South Africa as a beacon of what excellence looks like in the face of adversity. Our second focus is on gender equality, which is embodied in an annual observance called 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. It starts every year, November 25th, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and it runs through December 10th, which is the International Day for Human Rights. That 16-day period between November 25th and December 10th, over 170 countries around the world and over 300 million people are participating in activities to raise awareness and galvanize action to address and specifically to end violence against women and girls.
Wow.
And it's known as a global observance of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Now, we participate in that through our initiatives with T.R.C. by providing youth around the country and around the world an opportunity to, number one, pledge to end gender-based violence where they live. That pledge, they record it on their phone, post it on their social media, and then tag our organization, and we create followers for them by way of turning the social media tool or platform into a civic education delivery system for the education. Now, the ideal of them learning, number one, taking the pledge, and then secondarily being encouraged to take a course that's free, that educates them about how to prevent domestic and gender-based violence in their community.
Hold on for a second. Now you said free.
It's completely free. Anywhere in the world. We're in over 60 countries providing the curriculum, and they can go to our website at trconversations.com and simply sign up and take the course. For those young people, students and licensed social service professionals, students can earn academic credit as well, transferable to their local school for learning how to prevent violence against women and girls.
So by doing this, whatever they're going to school with, they can actually get credit towards school.
Absolutely. They're transferable to their local school.
Yes. Wow.
So the other part of that is that university students or licensed social workers or social service providers are also able to earn continuing education units, CEUs, for participating. That involves a pathway for scholarships for students anywhere in the world to apply, and their participation is being validated through their engagement. So we make the distinction between return on investment, which is the standard metric for determining impact. We look at return on engagement, ROE, as the metric for determining impact. And so what we're looking for is what level of engagement, of actual engagement, are the young people that we're targeting participating in, and how do we document that?
Now, you said something about a pledge. Is there a pledge that we can speak about right now?
Yes, so the pledge is to simply acknowledge that you're taking a stand to end violence against women and girls where you live, and then to give a reason why. Why is this important to you? For some, people it's as simple as I have a little sister, or I love my mother, or because we target young boys as well.
Yes.
And specifically, we say to men, accountability starts with us. We keep talking about gender equality and violence against women and girls as if it's a woman's issue.
Come on.
When men are the primary perpetrators.
That's true. That's true.
So our unwillingness to recognize that we're the fish in water, that we are the primary perpetrators, makes it impossible for us to solve this issue, which is completely preventable. This is the other thing to understand.
Yeah.
All behavior is learned. Consequently, it can be unlearned.
Absolutely.
We're talking about not just unlearned, but prevented. So when we're talking about toxic masculinity, domestic and gender-based violence, we're talking about learned behavior.
Yes. Yes.
And if we understand this learned behavior, then we have to ask ourselves, where is it being learned? And it's being learned by the normalization of how we mistreat women globally.
My dad acted that way. My uncles acted
We
that
never
way.
had to think about it.
Yes, yes, yes. And so unless or until we own it,
Yes.
until we own it,
Yes.
it's not going to change.
And the ownership, the accountability comes with the fact that we're the primary perpetrator.
Yes, yes.
So we don't have to guess about why we're owning it, why we're saying we're taking accountability for ourselves, because we're the primary perpetrators.
Absolutely. So what do you want everybody that's listening right now?
Well, one of the things we do, first and foremost, we want people to pledge, take a personal stand for gender equality by pledging to end violence against women and girls where you live. Post it on your social media, tag us at T.R.C, trconversations.com, and we will share your pledge with the world. Secondly, we want you to take our course,
Yes.
Orange Couch Conversations, for credit, academic credit, or let's talk about domestic and gender-based violence if you're a middle or high school student. It's completely free. If you are interested in earning academic credit, a scholarship's available. Our goal right now is to reach businesses. We want businesses, schools, and nonprofit organizations. We have what's called the Gender Safe Workplace Pledge. We're asking companies, business leaders, to take a pledge to provide a gender-safe workplace for their staff, customers, and community. Those businesses who do that will be taking a stand as significant as the anti-racist statements that were given across the globe after the murder of George Floyd. The entire world responded
Yes, yes they did.
with a level
Yes,
of
they did.
empathy that was unprecedented. As serious as that issue for that one man, which came to symbolize so many others, invisible, we're now at a moment where we say we took a knee against racism, let's take a stand for women and girls.
Absolutely.
That's what this is about.
Look at them and tell them, why is this so important to you?
I have a 16-year-old daughter. In addition to my daughter, I grew up in a generation, I'm 63 years old. There was no such term as domestic violence when I grew up. And there was no such term for it at the same time that it was pervasive. Everyone in my generation had normalized experiences where men exercised their authority over women, physically, verbally, emotionally. These were not things that were even, in fact, if a woman went home or complained to her mother that her husband was beating her or unkind or mistreating her, and he was a provider, I have heard my own relatives say things in my childhood
Yes.
that I only now recognize what was being said. I had no context for it then. But I remember things being said, girl, that's a good man. That man provides for those children. He takes care, he works. You need to go back. Don't come back here. Go back to that man. Whatever you need to do, you need to fix it. She was powerless. Powerless.
It sounds as though she was property.
Well, I'm saying we still are that way as men. I talk to young boys today, and I ask them, did you have a girlfriend in the first grade? And the boys will say, yeah, I had a girl, and they'll shoot, hands will go straight up, right?
Yeah.
I say, if you saw her today, you think she would still like you, or you think you could still talk to her? Almost the same amount of hands would automatically go up, as if from first grade now.
Come on, tell it.
None of the girls said such nonsense. But those boys somehow, as early as 15 or 16, actually have convinced themselves that a girlfriend that they had in grade school, in first grade or kindergarten, is still theirs. Where does that come from?
Property.
We've normalized things that we're unaware of. And here's what I'll say in closing. Parents, please listen to this. What we find in our work is that parents teach unintentionally and children learn unconsciously. So if you're teaching things unintentionally as a parent,
Yes.
and your children are acting out things that you now find disruptive, toxic, unacceptable, please look at yourself first and begin to ask the questions that are most important for healing the relationship with your child. And that is, what can I do to make things better?
Together, us doing this thing together, and I see us like the match that you're going to throw out there in the forest and light this state, this nation, and the world on fire with a passion to protect our greatest assets, women and girls. So I'm going to ask, as I read the statement of purpose for today, I'm going to ask two gentlemen. I want to ask Brother John, if you'll come up. This is purposeful. And Brother Jason, if you'll come and stand with me as I read the purpose of the occasion for today. And we want to make a statement even while we're doing this purpose of occasion. It's an us thing, all right? And this is why I wanted the brother on my left and the brother on my right as I state the purpose for today's occasion. The purpose is to raise the flag of advocacy against gender-based violence against girls, women and girls, of course, who are our companions, the carriers of the next generation, the children, and the caretakers. We're raising the flag. We're making a statement, we're making a stand, and we're also lighting a fire starting in the new Black Wall Street market, and we need to give the owner of this dynamic place a big hand clap, Mr. Bill Allen, thanking him for the opportunity to use this space. And then I want to give a special applause to Mr. Todd Rose, who has worked with the team here at New Black Wall Street in putting this thing together today. So let's give him a hand clap as well. So thank you, brothers, for coming and standing with me as we are together doing this thing. Let's kind of lock in a little bit. Since they're taking pictures and we got it on social media, this is an us thing. We're doing it together. I got a cowboy on my right, a cowboy on my left. All right, okay, I get it. But this is what we want to show forth moving forward. A united front and men stepping out front. Thank you, guys. Let's give them another hand clap. I'm utterly excited to introduce the founder of T.R.C, stands for Truth and Reconciliation Conversations, if this is the first time that you're hearing about it. And a man that I would say the queen of networking, and her husband can vouch for this more than I can. He told me a few moments ago, Melvin, he said, look, if you're gonna hang around my wife, you better know how to swim. This is what my brother here in the front row said. If you're going to hang anywhere close to her, you need to know how to swim, because she swims in a lot of different waters. And so we thank God for Sister Kimberly McMorris for introducing me to Brother Khalil Osiris, Professor Khalil Osiris, who is the founder of TRC. So let's stand and give him a great welcome as he's going to come and introduce himself further. Brother Khalil, Professor Khalil Osiris, thank you. being who you have been, doing what you have been doing, and striking that match that you have thrown globally so that we can make a difference.
Thank you so much. Please have a seat. Thank you. Brother Calvin, it's really, brother, I'm honored. I'm humbled and I'm honored because I know the work that you do on a daily basis, you and your wife, and you're just celebrating your 40th anniversary. Can we give them really a round of applause? 40 years? That's outstanding. We don't even, you know how easy it is to break up today. 40 years, I just want to say, so you're really a beacon. You're the light on the hill. For many of us who are men who are asking ourselves, how does it work? Is it possible? The answer is yes. So thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out this evening or this afternoon for this event. I just want to give you some backdrop for T.R.C. Truth and Reconciliation was adapted from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa. The commission that was founded by the late Reverend Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela, and the inspiration to face down apartheid, to face down hatred, with a commitment to love and a commitment to be an example of what else is possible. What I saw in that was an opportunity for us to question ourselves about how we want to make a difference personally, not as a commission, but what kind of conversations would we like to have that would be different from the ones we're used to? How could we begin to talk with each other with greater love, with greater respect? How could we begin to think differently about who we are and then show up that way in terms of excellence? And when I say being inspired by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Nelson Mandela's work in Archbishop Desmond Tutu, I became pen pals with Nelson Mandela while I was in prison here in America. I served 20 years in prison. During that incarceration, over 2 periods, first as a 17-year-old, reckless, angry, wanted to make a difference and didn't know how, conscientized by the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Some of you here will know that party. Being conscientized by that, but being confused. Like a young, not unlike many young men today, right now, want to do something significant but don't know how, and leads to recklessness. But in my case, it led to violence, a robbery at 17. Not because I didn't have parents that didn't care. No, I had a loving mother, a loving father, all of those things that we know as parents we give and we hope will be a determining factor in the good they do. But I ignored my parents' prayers. I was that reckless one. And at 17, you think you're a man until you meet men. And in my case, it was violent men in America's bowels, at the bottom of life. Let me just tell you this. You don't know what you're capable of becoming when you're 17 years old. You don't have a clue. But I will say this. Nothing in my life could have prepared me for what I was about to witness when I went there. And the end result was, I discovered I too could become a savage. To survive. So when you see, some of you will have family members, in this audience, some of you have family members who have gone there, have gotten out and gone back, and gotten out and gone back. And we ask ourselves, how can something you hate so much, how can you keep returning to it? Well, let me just say this. Until you transform your thinking, your behavior will remain the same. You can't have a positive life with a negative mind. And what I discovered when I got to prison at 17, I actually was already incarcerated before my arrest. The source of my incarceration was not the cell. It wasn't the arresting police officer. It was self-imposed limitations. It was self-defeating beliefs. And I got out and went back. At 22, I got out, was stabbed by Aryan Brotherhood members, committed horrific acts of violence, released at 22. I was a wounded human being. However bad you may have thought I was at 17, by the time I was 22, having been stabbed by Aryan Brotherhoods and becoming a savage in there to survive, I was something you wouldn't recognize. I tell you this because some of you have those family members. Some of you know these stories personally. And I went right back to prison. It was predictable. This time, my maximum sentence was 75 years. It was the rest of my life. I tell you that because I want you to understand what's possible to come back from. When I went the second time, here's what I realized. Prison is a metaphor for self-imposed limitations, and freedom is a choice. It was the premise of my book called The Psychology of Incarceration. It's now in over 70 prisons around the country. While I was in prison, I went and earned my bachelor's and master's degree from Boston University, at the same prison that Malcolm Little became Malcolm X, the same university where Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. earned his doctorate. I was conscious of that journey while I was making it. Makaziwe Mandela was attending UMass, University of Massachusetts Amherst, on a Fulbright scholarship. I wrote her from prison, wrote the registrar at the school and said, like her father, I'm in prison in America at the bottom of life. Imagine this. The registrar was so moved by the letter, she gave it to Makaziwe. Makaziwe wrote me back and we became pen pals. In 1986, I wrote Nelson Mandela at Poolsmore Prison and committed to him and Makaziwe Mandela, his eldest daughter, that I would, once released from prison in America, I would move to South Africa and work in schools and prisons to honor the legacy of the contributions he made for many of us at the bottom of life in America. Prisoners like me who were invisible. Those who were dead and gone. I tell you that because something came out of Nazareth that wasn't expected. There was something there. And some of you, you need to know that those folks that are still there, don't give up. You don't know what God's going to do with them. You don't have a clue. It's a mighty work unfolding. So now what I do, we have two observances for Truth and Reconciliation conversations. One is the Nelson Mandela International Day held every year, July 18th, recognizing everyday local heroes who embody Nelson Mandela. Brother, you have a spirit so strong. You just have a powerful, powerful spirit, brother.
God.
I see it. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see God.
Yes, sir.
But we celebrate July 18th in recognition of him. And then we have our second observance. It's for gender equality. By focusing on how we can end violence against women and girls. I'm talking about something we don't need any permission to do. I'm saying something that we don't need money to engage. I'm saying that there's no outside invader that would prevent us from doing the thing that I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about statistics. I'm talking about human beings sitting right beside you who have been wounded by us men. And the reason why we find it so difficult to recognize how brutal it is because we're the fish in water. We're the perpetrators in most of the cases. And I say that because I'm 63. When I grew up, there was no such term as domestic violence or domestic abuse. That word did not exist. So the reason why we have men disproportionately represented here today on this issue is because when you look at the issue globally, this observance happens annually in over 170 countries, participated in by over 300 million people. And if you look for visibility of men, particularly men of color, it's 0.0001%. On the flip side, when you think of perpetrator, by default, it comes immediately to mind. So by default, we're being seen as perpetrators for lack of advocacy on an issue that we are the primary perpetrators of. That can be changed. We don't need anyone's permission to change that. So I'm talking to every man, every young boy, and I'm saying that we have the power to stop it, to prevent it, and to be on the front line doing it. And here's what happens. They're going to earn academic credit. They're going to earn academic credit. Young people who take the course will earn academic credit for learning how to prevent violence where they live against women and girls. I'm here. I have a 16-year-old daughter. I know how unconscious I was and have been as a man. And when I say unconscious, I just assumed that any relationship I was in, that at the end of the day, she's just supposed to do what I say. No, now I know I'm not the only man in here with that kind of unconsciousness operating. And I say it's unconsciousness not because it's right or wrong that what I'm doing. I'm saying I was unconscious. See, I'm being truthful about me. I'm not saying the model of a man being the head is wrong. I'm saying I was an unconscious man. I'm telling you something very different than attacking the model. And it's important to understand the distinction. If you have a person operating in consciousness and godliness and who is operating from his higher self, that's a very different thing than a man who comes to you and you know he is unconscious and treating you poorly. Let's just get some conscious men. That's all. Brother, thank you.
Man, you inspire me every time I hear you share your testimony like that. Very, very inspiring. It was an easy fit when Kim introduced me to Khalil. I'm like, we're already doing something down these lines. Easy plug-in. T.R.C. became like wind beneath our wings. But anyway, here's my introduction. I'm Dr. Calvin Elson, the founder of the Men Magnifying Manhood Movement, director for civic engagement, very proudly for T.R.C., the Vice President of Community Affairs for the Atlanta Black Chambers of Commerce, and the biggest one of all, I'm the husband of Judy Ellison for 40 years. So at this time, we're going to start, the scripture says that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So Brother Isaac is going to be first since he was last, all right, to come up and introduce himself for 1 minute, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have the women to go first in a panel type 20-minute discussion, and then the men are going to go after that. Then we'll have some Q&A and wrap up. So let's welcome Brother Isaac Barnes to give a minute introduction of himself. Good to meet you.
Thank you. So, he said a key phrase, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. I think every single one of us in here understands what that means at a visceral level. And today, I just want to say thank you to all of the panelists and everybody that's here. And a special thank you to everybody in the audience. This means so much to see this many beautiful faces on a Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So, I'm Isaac Barnes. I'm the president and co-founder of Imminent Future. I recently made history for being one of the youngest black entrepreneurs ever to win a $13.4 billion contract with the Department of Defense. And that's not even one of the most important things I would say about myself. One of the most important things is I'm a believer. I'm a believer in I just wanted to acknowledge that and just say it. And also, I support this cause. And as Khalil knows, I support this cause of standing up for our women, standing up for our children, and standing up for anybody that's treated unfairly and unjustly.
That I met when my wife and I first moved here to Georgia. It's been a great connection. I'm going to let him fill in all the blank, but Mr. Melvin Coleman. Let's give him a big hand clap. Executive Director for the Young and Black Chambers of Commerce.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ellison. It is always good to be in this particular space, and it's wonderful to see everything that's happening here. And this event is just another one in a long line of great experiences. So, as Dr. Ellison said, my name is Melvin Coleman. I'm the Executive Director of the Atlanta Black Chambers. We're an organization of entrepreneurs. And again, being here is so relevant for me because this space is about black entrepreneurship, black ownership, black wealth, and black excellence. And to stick with the theme of what we will be discussing today, my greatest achievement in life is I am the father of a 12-year-old beautiful daughter. Her name is Layla. Thank you.
All right, he keeps it rolling with the chamber. It has astronomically grown under his leadership, and we're so proud to be a part. Next we have, you know how you have these relationships that were supposed to be by mistake, but you find out that they were divinely ordained. This time we're going to have Pastor Kenyon Dudley come and introduce himself.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much to Dr. Ellison and Professor Khalil. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am a testimony of can anything good come out of Nazareth? I am from the Decatur, Georgia area, and I have been blessed to be in the entertainment world. I've been blessed to be in the educational world, as well as living in LA doing entertainment. But most of all, I am currently the COO and co-founder of Naomi's Connect Technology. My beautiful wife in the white here is the creator of an app where we put together motherless daughters and daughterless mothers, those who are looking to be a part of forever families. It's because we work with a lot of individuals who have encountered those type of things. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited about the conversation today.
Hello everyone, my name is Cynthia Deck. I made history twice by being offered the highest contract in women's football, and then the second time by becoming the first female athlete to own a shoe company called Tronos. So I'm all about breaking glass ceilings for women, women's rights, and just showing all the women and little girls around the world that anything is possible.
All right. I met this gentleman through the DA's office, did a session for the homicide group. We clicked like that. He's more than what he'll tell you, trust me. So at this time, we're going to welcome Mr. Tory Lang to come and share. Let's give him a big hand.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out on this glorious Thanksgiving evening. Dr. Calvin Ellison and I and Professor Khalil hooked up, as he said, under certain circumstances that God has ordained. My name is Tory Lang, by the way. My daughter, Tory Lang, was a victim of well, I ain't gonna say domestic violence, but gender-based violence. And it ultimately led to her death. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm just glad to be a part of this movement, and that this is a lifelong movement, and I've dedicated myself into ensuring that we create a society of peace.
I'm now the Vice President of Refocus Africa's Investors Network. I'm so grateful for that, because we have to interconnect us, because we have to build a bridge back to Africa. I'm also here, of course, with my handsome husband, James McMorris, where we own First Priority Insurance Agency. You name it, we'll find a way to insure it. And I'm also the Southeast Regional Director for the National Association for the Advancement of Women in Insurance and Business. And it's just simply an honor and a pleasure to be here. And Brother Khalil, thank you so much for all that you continue to do, and thank you for giving a voice to this. Because as we go into conversation, it's pointed for us to begin to have these conversations, because we have to heal ourselves from the inside out. We can't wait on them to do it for us. We have to take a stand right now and heal ourselves from the inside out.
My husband alluded to it. He was a New York State trooper, but I am someone who was formerly incarcerated, and extensive rap sheet, had a rough upbringing because I experienced gender-based violence myself, and also am a two-time human trafficking survivor. But I am blessed to be able to say I stand before you now, not only having gone through all of that, but to be able to come out of that being a 14-time author, an international best-selling author, and to be able to go on to practice law. I'm a corporate tax attorney for a New York City insurance and investment firm. And I'm so happy to be able to do that and be able to inspire people to know that you can go back, you can come back from those dark places. So I appreciate Professor Khalil talking about how you never know what God has planned for someone. And so I'm grateful for that. I also co-found with my husband Waterbury Community Action Network, and we are the founders of a school in Africa, the Mary Kay Holmes School of Business, where we support women to become entrepreneurs who are survivors of gender-based violence. So we appreciate it. We look forward to the conversation. Thank you so much once again for having us.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Raheem Najib, and I have the privilege of sitting here with Mr.
Melvin Coleman, Executive Director of the Atlanta Black Chamber.
Good deal. Very powerful young man, and he's here at the function that we're doing today. Amazing event, absolutely amazing event. What is your overall feeling? What is in your heart about what is going on, and what captivated you the most of today?
Well, first, being the father of I have a daughter.
Yes.
And this topic, this situation is something that is near and dear to my heart. Absolutely. Because, I have a daughter, and I want to model for her, show her the right way, what to expect in her, say, relationships with men.
Yes. You having a daughter, I have 4 daughters. How hurtful is it to know that if nothing happens, if we don't do certain things, that even our daughters could be in a situation where they could become victimized?
It's scary for me to think that my daughter would have this experience, and as a dad, you want to protect.
Yes. Yes.
And educate her, show her the right way. So, but it is scary.
Yes.
But if we come together as men, take a stand, and show the world that we're committed to putting an end to gender-based violence.
So I'm asking you the question, bro. Are you taking a pledge?
I am most definitely taking the pledge today.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Raheem Najib. I have the distinct pleasure of sitting here with Mr.
Isaac Barnes.
Isaac Barnes. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Barnes.
So I am an activist. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, but most importantly, I'm a servant of God. And that has brought me many blessings in life. I currently run a successful government contracting company. We build software and do technology to help America, create the change that we want to see.
Absolutely. Now, what happened here today, to me, absolutely amazing.
Oh, it was amazing.
Seeing all the people, the ladies sharing their stories, then you all coming behind them and seeing what y'all felt about how, and giving your own personal stories and testimonies as well. Brother, what is it that brought you here today, and how impactful was this towards you?
So this was one of the most impactful things that I've done, at least, if not, the last 5 years, at least the last year. Just seeing and hearing the stories of the women,
Yes.
hearing and seeing the stories of the men, but more importantly, seeing how the audience showed up for this, right? It's rare in our community that we have this many people coming together for a cause like this. We try to push things under the rug and act like things don't happen, but this is a cause that I've been very passionate about, literally all year since I've heard about it. So I've done my pledge. I've also signed up my company to support this cause and support this initiative. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. Like I mentioned, I've gone through my own version of gender-based violence as a man, and having women, be the perpetrators of that. And so I can relate on a deep, deep level on the pain and the suffering and the trauma that it causes. And so all of that is what brought me here today.
And I was molested for years, for a lot of years, and never ever talked about it. Because I started being groomed whenever I was a little girl, right? Like probably 5, 6 years old. And by the time my mother asked me, baby, has something happened? Because she couldn't figure out why, whenever I got my first cycle, why I could already wear a tampon. She asked me, baby, has someone touched you? But it was too late by then. I was already groomed into silence.
I feel the same. I haven't met a woman that has not been molested or raped or sexually assaulted. I have yet to meet a woman and learn her story and find that is not a part of her story. Because when I was 4 years old, molestation started for me within my family. But I didn't say anything about it because I had heard it as I was growing up, talked about so much in a way that it didn't seem like it was a serious matter. It seemed like something that was just swept under the rug, and what happens in this house stays in this house mentality. And I remember when I got old enough, I asked my mother, because we knew who the molesters were, but they still got to come to Thanksgiving dinner. They still got to be in the house on Christmas, and we still got to go, and be around them. In fact, there were some times when I was allowed to go over to these individuals' homes unsupervised. And I asked my mother, I said, why aren't these people in jail?
The event that we're at today, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I heard the stories. I heard you ladies. Y'all told y'all stories. So powerful. Somewhat hurtful because there's a lot of pain that actually came forth and the transparency. Why were you all able to be so transparent today?
I was actually just talking about that. I feel like there was a sense of safety in the room, to be honest. I felt like because everybody was able to be open and transparent and honestly not holding anything back, I felt like it caused everybody to kind of just spill out, whatever pain or hurt or whatever their story is, and it came out. And I feel like that's honestly what a lot of us need. Because we don't feel. This was the first time I told my story out loud, which I wasn't even expecting today. So it was a lot.
Was there a point or a pace or a point in this point while you're sharing your story that there was a sense of relief for you, that you were actually talking about it, that you was actually sharing it, that you was actually being open about it?
Definitely. I've been wanting to tell my story. I just didn't know how or when. These conversations are hard.
Yeah.
So now this might give them the confidence to go and talk to the parents, the person that did it, the children, whatever it may be. So it's all about, for me, inspiration and just allowing people to, be themselves.
Okay. How do you get to a place? And this is a very personal question, and you can answer it the way you want to. But how do you get to a place of forgiveness?
So for me, it's just about like taking my power back in those situations, and you know, I got to do it for my kids. I can't go into a marriage and then eventually have children and have this burden on me, and then expect my kids to be able to be in a healthy environment completely. And I don't want the sins of their fathers and mothers on them. So like, I want to make sure I'm breaking every chain so that my babies can live the life that I didn't get to live when it comes to, you know, that type of situation.
What I'm hearing you say, something, and we're going to close out, but what I'm hearing you say is the healing starts with you. It starts now. It starts with you. You're killing it off right now.
Yeah, I gotta protect them.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what it is.
That's good. What is the one thing that the one jewel? It's my last question. What is the one jewel that you're going to take from this experience today that you can take out into the world and help other people?
I'm definitely gonna tell my story more. I think it's time. Like I said, I've been wanting to do it, so this has definitely pushed me to go ahead and say, you know, I need to do this more. So I'm gonna talk about it more on social media. I'm gonna talk about it more with my family, even my friends, because I know they've been through some stuff too. And just start the conversation that we haven't talked about.
This conversation is one of the most impactful conversations that can be had. And for me, it's on a visceral level. It's on a very visceral level.
I think that's where a lot of the sentiment from a lot of the women that presented today that's either fallen victim of gender-based violence or fallen victim of gender equality in the workplace, they realize like they don't have a safe place. They don't feel safe. They don't feel protected. Okay. And so I think a lot of this conversation is important to have and to have had. And I'm glad that, you know, I could participate in it, and I'm glad I was here because it's important for us as men to take that stand, to take that pledge to say, we're going to be here, we're going to be the ones that, because we're the ones perpetuating it. Absolutely. In most cases, we need to be the ones to stand on the side.
Okay. How impactful was today?
Woo! Today was impactful because it's showing that we have a organization that's willing to take a stand on that. Like you have your Isaac Barnes, who just had the $13.4 billion deal with the Department of Defense that's going to jump in and utilize some of those monies to make sure these kind of gender-based violence don't work. And the reason is, I believe that we can make awareness is the concerts. We can have different fund drives and different events, activations, of course, here at the New Black Wall Street Market. And hopefully this event will continue to grow. You know, it should be a packed house because it's an issue we have to deal with right in the forefront, right in the nitty-gritty. And I feel like that's what this organization's done. So today's event gave me hope for the future for gender-based violence coming to an end.
What did you capture from this day?
It really helped to bring home the understanding of gender-based violence as well as domestic violence. It is real.
Yes, yes. I asked a question earlier, if you could take a jewel out of everything that happened today, you could reach into the bucket and pull out one jewel and take it back into the community, what would that be?
It's time for action. It's time to make a difference. It's time to talk. It's time to have conversation. It's time to speak up, say something. And many times when I gather, if you're silent, it means you consent.
Yes.
So it's time for us to step up and make a difference.
Did you take the pledge?
I most certainly did.
Thank you.